9 promises God will carry his elderly people when no one else will do not skip. Nobody warned you that survival would feel like this. You endured things that should have broken you. You prayed through seasons most people never see. You held your faith together with trembling hands when everything around you was falling apart. And now, after all of that, the world looks at your gray hair and your slower steps, and quietly decides your story is winding down. But Psalm 92, verse 14, says something the world has never understood. Those planted in the house of the Lord shall still bear fruit in old age. Not once bore fruit, still bear fruit. God wrote that verse for you, and what he is about to show you in the next few minutes will change how you see every day you have left. Type "He still carries me" in the comments below. If he has carried you this far, say it out loud so the rest of heaven can hear it. Say it again. He still carries me. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and stay until the very end, because Promise 9 contains a truth about your final chapter that most believers have never been shown, and it will change how you face every day from this moment forward. And it starts with the promise most people in your position have never allowed themselves to fully believe. Promise 1. God did not bring you this far to leave you here. Look at your hands right now. Every line on them is a chapter. Every scar is a storm you walked out of. Every year behind you is not evidence that your time is running out. It is evidence that God has been faithful every single morning you did not know how you would make it through. Jeremiah sat in a pit. Not a metaphorical pit, a real one, with mud at the bottom and enemies above him, and no visible way out. Yet Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, was not spoken to a man in comfort. It was spoken to a people in captivity. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. God does not speak future promises to people he intends to abandon. He speaks them to people he intends to carry. Think about Elijah. He ran from Jezebel, collapsed under a juniper tree, and told God he was finished, done, ready to die. And what did God do? He did not rebuke him. He fed him. He let him sleep. He touched him twice and said, "The journey is too great for you." Then he carried him 40 days to the mountain where his presence waited. 1 Kings chapter 19. God did not abandon his prophet at his lowest point. He showed up with bread, with rest, and with a word that redefined what the next chapter looked like. That is the God who has been walking with you. Not a God who invests decades into a life and walks away when the road gets steep. Not a God who builds something for 60, 70, 80 years and then leaves it unfinished. You are not unfinished. You are mid-sentence in a story only He knows how to complete. If this channel has spoken something your soul needed to hear today, subscribe right now. And what comes next in this video is for every person who has ever felt like their best days of serving God are already behind them. And the very hands that brought you here are the same hands that refuse to let you go, even when the world around you has already decided your best days are behind you. Promise 2. You are not too old to be used. You are finally ready. The world has a system for deciding who matters. It is called youth. It measures value in energy, speed, and output. And by that system, you have already been quietly moved to the margins. But here is what that system has never understood. God does not recruit from the margins. He works from them. Moses did not stand before Pharaoh at 30. He stood there at 80. 40 years in the wilderness was not wasted time. It was preparation disguised as obscurity. The man who tried to deliver Israel in his own strength at 40 was not ready. The man who had been broken, humbled, and emptied by decades of desert living, that man was. Exodus chapter 3 does not record a young man's ambition. It records an old man's surrender. And surrender, not strength, is what God has always been looking for. Caleb is the one most people skip over. At 85 years old, when every other man his age was satisfied to rest, Caleb walked up to Joshua and said, "Give me this mountain." Joshua chapter 14, verse 12. Not give me a comfortable place to finish out my days. Give me the hardest assignment left on the map. That was not stubbornness. That was a man who had spent decades watching God work and had finally learned to trust Him completely. That kind of faith cannot be rushed. It can only be grown. You did not waste your years. You were being formed by them. Every difficulty you endured built something in you that no classroom, no sermon, no youthful ambition could have produced. You are not behind. You are seasoned. You are not slowing down into irrelevance. You are stepping into the version of yourself God always intended you to become. The question was never whether God could use you. The question was whether you were ready to be used. But purpose, this deep, rarely walks alone, and neither does the loneliness that quietly follows. When the people who once surrounded you begin to disappear. Promise 3. When everyone else steps back, He steps closer. Nobody talks about this part. The calendars that slowly empty. The phone that rings less. The chair at the table that no one sits in anymore. The friends who were there for decades, gone now. Some to distance, some to illness, some to eternity. Aging in America is often a quiet subtraction. People do not leave all at once. They drift. And one morning you realize the circle that once surrounded you has grown smaller than you ever expected it to become. David knew that morning. In Psalm 88, the writer cries out that darkness has become his closest companion. In 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 16, Paul writes from a prison cell that at his first offense, no one came to stand with him. Everyone deserted him, not strangers, people he had poured his life into. And yet the very next words he writes are these: "But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength." Not the Lord eventually showed up. The Lord stood. Present tense. Already there before the loneliness finished forming its sentence. That is the pattern Scripture establishes again and again. Human presence contracts. Divine presence expands. The smaller the room becomes, the closer He draws. Isaiah chapter 43 verse 2 does not say God will watch you pass through the waters from a safe distance. It says, when you pass through them, I will be with you. The preposition matters, not above you observing, not behind you following, with you, inside the same difficulty, at the same moment, refusing to let the flood define the outcome. The loneliness you feel is real. Do not let anyone diminish it with easy answers. But loneliness and abandonment are not the same thing. One is a feeling, the other would require God to break His own character. And that is something He has never done and will never do. He is not far from you. He has simply moved into the space the others left behind. If you have not typed, "He still carries me" in the comments yet, this is your last chance. Because what you are about to hear will make you mean it even more. Type it now. He still carries me. Because what comes next is going to show you exactly why the strength you think you have lost was never the strength He needed from you in the first place. What fills that space next may surprise you, because the strength he brings is nothing like the strength you used to carry on your own. Promise 4. The strength you lost was never the strength he needed. There is a grief nobody names. Not the grief of losing someone you love. Not the grief of a diagnosis or a difficult season. This is the grief of losing yourself, the version of yourself who could do things, who could lift what needed lifting, drive where needed going, work from sunup until the day was done without asking anyone for help. That person is gone now, and no one told you how much it would cost to say goodbye to them. But here is what that version of you was never told. God was not impressed by the capacity. He was always after the surrender. Gideon had an army of 32,000 men. God sent 31,000 home. Not because the battle was small, because the army was too large. Judges chapter 7, verse 2 records God's exact reasoning. If Israel defeats their enemies with this many soldiers, they will credit themselves instead of me. God deliberately reduced what looked like strength until what remained could only be explained by his power. The miracle required the weakness. Without it, the testimony was impossible. Paul discovered the same truth in a different kind of suffering. He begged God 3 times to remove what was tormenting him. 3 times. And the answer he received in 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 9 was not healing. It was this: "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Not despite weakness, in it, through it, because of it. The very thing Paul wanted removed was the precise condition under which God's power could be most fully displayed. Your declining strength is not a sign that God is done with you. It is the condition under which he can finally do through you what your own ability was never capable of producing. You did not lose your usefulness when you lost your strength. You lost the thing that was standing between you and something far greater. And what remains in you now, the prayers, the faith, the decades of tested trust, that is precisely where the next chapter begins. Promise 5. Your prayers are doing what your body no longer can. You may not be able to go where you once went. The mission trips, the hospital visits, the early morning drives to help someone who needed you. The body that once moved without hesitation now requires negotiation. And somewhere in that transition, a quiet fear took root. If I cannot do what I used to do, what am I still contributing? If I cannot show up the way I once showed up, does my presence still matter? It does, more than you know. And the reason is simpler than you might expect. Your knees may not carry you the way they once did, but they can still bend. And a bent knee before God has always moved more than 2 strong legs ever could. James chapter 5 verse 16 does not say the energetic prayers of a young person accomplish much. It says the effective, fervent prayer of a righteous person accomplishes much. Righteousness is not measured in years or speed or physical capacity. It is measured in faithfulness, and you have been building that account for decades. Every trial you prayed through, every night you interceded when no one else knew the situation. Every morning you brought your family before God. When they were too young to know they needed it, that was not wasted. That was investment. And the return on that investment is still compounding. Anna understood this. Luke chapter 2, verse 37, records that she never left the temple. She fasted and prayed night and day. She was 84 years old. Her body was not her ministry. Her prayers were. And it was not the young priests or the able-bodied scholars who first recognized the Messiah when he arrived. It was the old woman who had spent decades in the posture of intercession. She saw what others missed because she had trained her spiritual eyes. While everyone else was focused on what their hands could accomplish. Your body has limits. Your prayers do not. Geography cannot stop them. Age cannot silence them. Weakness cannot reduce their power before the throne of God. If you have made it this far, you are not an ordinary viewer. You are someone who takes eternal things seriously. Most people scroll past the hard questions. You are sitting with them. That is not a small thing. That is the kind of faith God has been building in you for decades. Do not stop here. The next 4 promises are the ones that will speak directly to what you are carrying into tomorrow. And promise 9 will be the one you remember for the rest of your life. You are not on the sidelines. You are deployed in the most powerful position available to any believer, and the fear waiting in tomorrow's uncertainty has no answer for the God you are bringing it before. Promise 6. Fear has no jurisdiction over a future God already owns. Fear about the future is not a weakness. It is a symptom. It means you are carrying something that was never designed to fit in human hands. The medical appointments with uncertain outcomes, the finances that feel thinner every year, the question of who will be there when you cannot manage alone. These are not small concerns. They are the weight of a future you can see approaching but cannot control. And that gap between what is coming and what you can do about it is exactly where fear sets up its residence. But fear operates on a single assumption, that the future is unoccupied territory. It is not. Revelation chapter 1, verse 8, records God identifying himself, not as the one who was, not simply as the one who is, but as the one who is to come. He is already present in what you have not yet reached. Your tomorrow is not an empty room waiting to be furnished by circumstance. It is a space God has already entered, already prepared, already filled with provision you cannot see from where you are standing today. Joshua stood at the edge of the Jordan River with a nation behind him and an impossible crossing ahead of him. God did not give him a plan. He gave him a promise. Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Not wherever you are strong enough to go, wherever you go. The courage God commanded was not the absence of fear. It was the refusal to let fear have the final word when God had already spoken. Fear tells you the future is a threat. Scripture tells you the future is a territory your Father already owns. Fear says, what if he is not there? Isaiah chapter 46 verse 4 says, I will be there. That is not a possibility. It is a declaration from the only one in the universe with the authority to make it. You are not walking toward an uncertain future. You are walking toward a prepared one. And the faith that has carried you through every difficult decade so far is the same faith that will carry you the rest of the way home. Promise 7. The faith you carried for decades is now carrying you. There was a season when faith felt like something you had to produce. You had to summon it, protect it, defend it against every doubt that came knocking. You held on to it through the job loss, through the diagnosis, through the years when prayer felt like shouting into silence. You carried it into the hospital room. You carried it to the graveside. You carried it through the marriages that almost did not survive, and the children who walked away from God in the nights when you were not sure your own heart could hold on another hour. You carried it for decades, through everything. But something shifts in a life of long faithfulness that most people never stop long enough to notice. At some point, the faith stops being the thing you carry and becomes the thing that carries you. Hebrews chapter 11 is often read as a celebration of great spiritual giants. But look closer at what it actually records. Noah built an ark for a flood he had never seen. Abraham left for a country he could not name. Sarah received strength to conceive when her body had no biological reason to cooperate. Not one of them was celebrated for their circumstances. Every single one was celebrated for one thing only. They believed God when believing cost them something. That is not the faith of the young and unscathed. That is the faith of people who had been tested long enough to know that God does not fail. And that knowledge, earned through years of holding on, becomes a foundation nothing can shake. Job sat in ash and loss so complete that his closest friends ran out of explanations. His body was broken, his wealth was gone, his children were buried. And in the middle of all of it, Job chapter 19 verse 25 breaks through. Like light through a collapsed ceiling, I know that my Redeemer lives. Not I hope, not I believe on good days. I know. That is not the declaration of someone new to faith. That is the settled conviction of someone whose faith has been forged by fire, until certainty was the only thing left standing. Your faith is not fragile. It has been through too much to be fragile. It has been tested by the kind of seasons that break people who have not built what you have built. You are not holding on to God by your fingernails. He has been holding on to you all along, and what He has preserved in you is about to become the most important thing you have ever passed on. Promise 8. What you leave behind will outlast everything you built. Most people measure a life by what they accumulated. The house, the career, the savings account that took 30 years to build. And there is nothing wrong with those things, but every single one of them has an expiration date. The house will belong to someone else. The career will be filled by someone younger. The account will be dispersed. Everything built with hands eventually passes through other hands. That is not a tragedy. It is simply the nature of anything that belongs to time. But there is something you carry that does not belong to time. And that is the only thing worth talking about. Deuteronomy chapter 6 records Moses giving his final instructions to a nation he would not live to see enter the promised land. He was not building monuments to himself. He was not leaving a financial legacy. He was standing before a generation that would outlive him and saying this: Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and impress these commandments on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Moses understood something that most people only learn late. The most powerful inheritance is not what you deposit in a bank. It is what you deposit in a life. Think about what Timothy carried into his ministry. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 5 does not credit a seminary or a gifted teacher. It credits two women, his grandmother Lois and his mother Eunice. Their faith, Paul writes, lived first in them before it lived in him. Two ordinary women whose names appear in exactly one verse of all of Scripture. Yet the faith they passed to one young man helped shape the early church. In ways that are still being felt 2,000 years later, they did not build anything the world would have noticed. They built something the world could not destroy. You are building that right now. Every time you pray over a grandchild who does not yet know they are being prayed for, Every time you choose to trust God in front of someone who is watching to see whether faith holds up under real pressure. Every testimony you share is a seed planted in ground you may never see bear fruit. The things you built with your hands will wear out. The faith you transfer into the people you love will not. And the one who carried you through every chapter of your story has already secured the final chapter, the one that has no ending. Promise 9. He carried you in your first breath and your last. Before you knew his name, he knew yours. Before you could form a single word of prayer, he was already present over your life. Before your parents had any idea what you would become, he had written every day into a book that existed before one of them had come to be. Psalm 139, verse 16. Your story did not begin with your first memory. It began with his intention. And a God who was that deliberate at the start does not become careless at the end. That is the architecture of Isaiah chapter 46, verse 4. Read it in full and notice what God is actually claiming. Even to your old age I am he. Even to gray hairs I will carry you. I have made you, and I will carry you. The same God who made you is the same God who carries you. The maker and the carrier are not two different figures, they are one. Which means the one who formed every detail of your life in the womb is the same one holding every detail of your life right now. He has not handed you off to someone else. He has not grown tired of the responsibility. He is still the one carrying you from the first moment to the last. Stephen understood what it meant to be carried at the end. Acts chapter 7, verse 55 records that in his final moments, as the stones were already falling, he looked up and saw heaven open, and the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God, not seated, standing. The posture matters. Jesus rose from his throne to receive his servant home. Death did not arrive for Stephen as an ambush. It arrived as an escort. The one who had carried him through life stepped forward to carry him through the threshold. That same posture awaits you, not because you were perfect, not because you never doubted, but because he who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it. Philippians chapter 1, verse 6. The completion is his responsibility, not yours. You did not carry yourself here. He did. Every storm that should have taken you did not. Every season that should have broken you did not. Every night that felt like it had no morning eventually gave way to light. That was not luck. That was a God who made a promise before you were born and has kept it every single day since. He carried you in your first breath. He will carry you in your last. And what waits on the other side of that last breath is not an ending. It is the moment you finally see the face of the one who never once let you go. There is a moment coming that no one escapes. You will stand before God, not with your accomplishments, not with your strength, not with anything the world used to measure your worth. You will stand with nothing but the life he carried you through. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17 says, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation, not a fading one, not an expiring one, new. That word has no age limit attached to it. So here is the question that matters more than any other. Will you let him carry you the rest of the way? You did not watch this far by accident. Subscribe to this channel and watch the videos waiting for you next. Because every week, this channel brings the biblical truth your soul needs. To stay anchored, stay defended, and stay carried all the way home.